Hello and welcome back to the Patient First Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Bryan Laskin, where, of course, we're looking to help you build the practice of your dreams by putting the patient first. And I'm excited because we have a very great guest today, David Haining, who is the owner of Dental TI and co-founder of FTG Imaging. David has been helping dental offices implement technology for the last 30 years and has worked with his partners on this to bring, for the last 5 years, to bring dental radiography continually closer to perfection, which is going to be a focus for today. I'm excited to talk about. Hello, David. How are you doing?
Good. How are you doing, Dr. Laskin?
Great, great. Yeah, I'm excited to talk with you because I've had a peek into the imaging system that you've created, and I'm excited to kind of tell our audience about it. But
Mhm.
first, I kind of want to find out, how did you get into working in dentistry and dental technologies?
Yeah, sure. So it was back in 1992. My brother-in-law, who was my sister's boyfriend at the time, introduced me to the intraoral camera and gave me the opportunity to sell that. I had just gotten out of college. I didn't really know what I wanted to do, and I thought, well, that's neat. And that's how I got started. And I was with different companies throughout the years. And in 1999, I decided to give it a shot on my own. And I was selling the digital dock camera back then, the first wireless camera. And that went well. And in 2003, I started Dental TI, and we just sort of grew from cameras to cone beams, sensors, etc.
Oh,
So,
that's great. Well, and so then how did you go from sort of selling other people's technology where now you're developing your own? Because that's a big leap. That I have a similar journey where I was helping other people develop software and then started developing my own. And it was basically just because to fix problems that I saw in the industry. Is yours similar, that where you just saw a need that nobody else was filling?
yeah, absolutely. Have been selling sensors. I started selling sensors in 1997 when I worked with Schick Technologies. Back then, sensors with the cord were even new, and people were just making the transition into getting into the digital technology. Computers weren't really there yet. So there were a lot of early adopters, I would say, in the late 90s. Now it's difficult to find an office that's not digital in one way or the other, whether it be phosphor plates or direct sensors. There aren't a ton of offices still using film, right? Although I know Gordon Christensen said that film is still the gold standard for the detection of incipient caries. As you'll see with our sensor, we believe it's now the gold standard for that. But so, I have seen the sensors, the problems with dental sensors, and they all have the same problems. It revolves around connections, USB connections, for example, that were designed for 1,500 connects and disconnects. Good connects and disconnects are being used on $10,000 sensors. And I thought that's not really a good design, right? And then the wires break down, they get bitten, cases get bitten, sensors get dropped, and they delaminate because they have glass inside of them. And the other thing is, the image quality just is not that good. Natively, they're fuzzy, and I thought, we have all these problems with sensors. And I did a Dental Town post I called The Truth about intraoral sensors that was viewed over 5,000 times, and they put it in the Dental Town magazine because I think dentists really have been frustrated and staff members with that technology and the fact that it hasn't gotten any better. So in 2017, Konstantinos Spartiotis in Finland was referred to me by a colleague because he was looking at bringing a new sensor to the US that would use direct conversion technology. And it was promised, he said it would have much better image quality, higher resolution. And he wanted to see if I had some interest in helping him get that product into the US. And I said, well, that sounds great, but I think another sensor with a wire is just not going to get noticed because that technology, his technology actually exists in 2D imaging. And in that world, it's not that recognized. It's recognized as being clear and better, but no one really knew what it was, direct conversion. So I said, I think that's going to be a tough sell. But I said, if we can have better image quality and remove the wire and make it wireless, then I think we'll have a home run. And so we started that conversation in 2017, worked to develop the concept. He worked to develop the design on the chip, the ASIC, application specific integrated circuit, which he patented. And he started his company Athlos about 5 years ago. And this is one of the pillars of the company was this technology. And the project was supposed to take about 3 years. It ended up taking 5 years. There were 40 engineers that worked on it, and they developed it basically from the ground up. And it, the investment was over $6 million. So it was a lengthy project, but the result is really a game changer. And the CR, when they reviewed it, in their quick look, they were amazed at the image quality, and they did a more extensive review 3 months later, and they said that it's a significant advancement in image quality. And obviously, not having the wire, they love that. But that's sort of where it started. And fast forward 5 years, and here we are. We have a product. It's been great, and it's exciting.
Yeah, so just to recap, what you've developed is a direct capture sensor, which has higher image quality and no cord, which is, not just obviously much more comfortable for patients, but much less prone to wear, tear, and breakage, right? Which is great. So how long has the sensor been on the market?
So July, we got our FDA in July of 2021.
Okay.
And we've got currently, I can't say the exact number of offices, but we do have it established. The sensor's gone through 10 firmware revisions, and we feel like now it's very stable and solid. But some things about the sensor that actually make it more durable is, unlike traditional sensors that have glass, this is homogenized siliconized construction internally. So it's got two components, the ASIC and the actual chip that's receiving the photons, and they're both siliconized construction. So you can drop this and it's not going to delaminate. The case is very rigid, so it doesn't compress other sensors. And part of this too, Dr. Laskin, part of the reason that I was so passionate about not having the wire is, I'd sold thousands, literally thousands of sensors, and we serviced them all. And I just saw how they get destroyed, and unfortunately, sometimes placing sensors on a patient is uncomfortable. They tend to bite when you don't want them to bite, right? And hygienists and assistants just want to get it, so they're maybe not as concerned about where the wire is, etc. So a lot of it was just that. And I had always, I remember when Schick brought out a wireless sensor. I don't know if you remember that, in 2006, and it was the CDR wireless, and that product failed. And the reason it failed is part of why we are succeeding with direct conversion is traditional sensors require quite a bit of power when they're processing, upwards of 300 milliamps, depending upon the brand. And so that Schick sensor, the battery life was about 300 exposures. It was disposable and it cost $300. That was one. And then they were transmitting on 2.4 gigahertz, and wireless phones work in that spectrum as well in the office. So you get a lot of black lines and noise. So it wasn't very diagnostic. And the other thing is people would lose them. And that's a big concern with this, is loss. But the difference is the Schick had a power button on it, so it could get misplaced very easily. Whereas our sensor has a docking station where it fits in perfectly, and it charges it and connects it to the computer. So staff typically, when they're done using it, it goes back to its home. But I was amazed that no one after Schick did that. It's tried to do it again. And part of it was the fact that doing it with traditional technology, CMOS technology, required a lot more power than a very small battery would give. So it was a bulky enclosure, and no one really solved that issue. Direct conversion, Konstantinos and his team has engineered this where it can take 2 to 4 milliamps maximum on its processing. So we can literally charge this, fully charge it, take it out of the docking station, take between 150 and 200 images without putting it back. Now, of course, you will always put it back between patients because that's how it pairs to the computer. But so it's the direct conversion technology that really allowed us to make a wireless product and make it practical.
Great. Well, so kind of to clarify your point, is that so the images get transferred to the computer when you put it back in the docking station?
No, it's actually live.
Oh,
So
it's
as you're
live.
taking images, it shows you a preview image on the screen. It's a BLE, so it's low energy Bluetooth transmission. And we have a preview on the screen in about 4 to 5 seconds where you know that you've gotten the image and you can move on. And then the full image is delivered in about another 4 seconds, depending upon the processor that you're using. I saw a newer i9 the other day deliver it in under 2 seconds, which was pretty impressive, delivering it after the preview image. So, but you're seeing it in real time. So you take the bite wing, it populates the template as you're going.
Oh, very cool. And I'm assuming that this is like a Twain appliance, so you can use it with, is that correct? So you can use it with
Absolutely.
any
Absolutely.
practice management system, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing I was excited about, our Twain is fairly sophisticated in that it's got some functions for the sensor. Like if on a Twain returning a single image, it won't give you an orientation unless you're delivering it to a template that knows how to orient it. With our sensor, you can actually click up in the corner and tell the software which direction the rounded corners are going. So it returns it without having to flip it after the fact if you're taking a single image. But the nice thing is any software that integrates with Twain, it works perfectly with. EagleSoft works great with that. Apteryx, Dexus. Dexus requires a third-party module to work with any sensor outside of Dexus, but it works great with and Open Dental. I was excited to find that Open Dental's imaging module can be customized, and the sensor works perfectly in that.
Very cool. Well, and it's called the DC Air, AIR, correct?
DC Air, and so DC is the direct conversion, and the Air is the wireless. That's sort of how we got that name.
Well, so where can people go to find out more information?
So they can go to dentalti.com certainly, because I'm part owner in FTG as you mentioned. My wife and I own Dental TI, and Dental TI is a distributor of the product. Currently, FTG we're selling direct and through a couple dealers as well. We'll most likely pursue just a dealer model in the future. Part of, when you initially bring a product to market, you want to know exactly where it's going, right? How it's performing and getting feedback. And so we weren't really ready to turn that over yet. And so Sodium Systems and Dental TI were the first two dealers of the product. And Sodium, Sean and Jake worked for me many years ago, and they started Sodium Systems. And they've been very successful in repairing sensors. So they've seen all the problems with wired sensors too. So when Sean saw this, he saw a Dental Town post about it. He reached out to me and he said, that looks pretty neat. We'd like to carry that. And I said, well, you're a dealer that knows enough that we would feel confident in you being one of the first partners with us. So but yeah, in the future, we hope to be carrying it through many different dealers.
Yeah. So, and Sean's been on the podcast before, Sodium Systems, doing great work, and so tell me a little bit more about Dental TI beyond obviously distributing the sensor. What else do you guys do at Dental TI?
Yeah, so we like to say we simplify dental technology. And so we offer cone beam intraoral sensors with wires still, although we're getting away from that. We just do it mostly for replacement for docs that don't want to invest in this yet. We're doing lasers, diode lasers, scanners, intraoral scanners, printers. So the whole 3D workflow effectively. And we like to always supply education with everything that we offer. We're pretty proud that Bruno Acevedo, Dr. Acevedo, oral radiologist that lectures nationwide, and he was a professor at the University of Louisville, but he did an 11 and a half hour educational portal for us for when we saw J. Merida cone beam, for example. And so anything that we sell, we'd like to provide a high level of education with it. And but we focus on imaging technologies.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. So is this sensor, is it would you put it like cost comparison to a traditional wired sensor? Is
Yeah,
it
so
similar?
yeah, it's similar. I would say if you look back at 3, 4 years ago, because the retail on it is $13,000, but that comes with a sensor and two docking stations. So one sensor and two docking stations, two rooms that it would serve. It comes with two sets of our custom holders, which here's a set of these. We call them zero profile, and it's unique in that it actually attaches to the back of the sensor to the battery hump. So, and the truth about this sensor is it works great with any holder, other than like a proprietary holder from a Dexus that fits just a Dexus, but a REN, XCP fit, anything that you're probably using with your traditional sensors. This works better because you don't have the torque from the wire. In terms of warranty, it comes with a 2-year warranty. I'd say 13,000. Used to be comparable with Dexus and Schick, but they've dropped their price. But when you consider the Dexus Platinum that's still being sold is about a 13-year-old sensor design now, and the Schick 33 is about an 8-year-old sensor design, you would expect those prices to drop because no one until this sensor came out, no one had really done anything significant in the industry. It was just a matter of price drops. But I always like to say, even at $13,000 for this sensor, not having a wire internally, not having glass means I'll probably get about twice as much life out of sensors that have that. And the image quality is phenomenal. I think if you go to the website and you look at some of the images, the sharpness that direct conversion creates, which just a quick summary of what that is for people that aren't familiar with the terminology, all traditional sensors work through what's called FOP imaging, fiber optic plate. And there's a scintillator that grabs photons and it converts it to visible light that filters through the fiber optic to the pixels on the CMOS. That's all of them. Direct conversion actually grabs photons directly. There's no conversion process. So it has an incredibly wide exposure latitude, incredibly wide spatial range, grayscale. It does not burn out. And the clarity is just native. The sharpness is native. And so those are some things that are different. I mean, doctors always get excited about the fact there's no wire. Doctors and staff, no wire. And then they're amazed when they see the image quality.
So do you help? Because I'm assuming you would have to recalibrate your X-ray heads when you get the new sensors, and so I'm assuming. And then do you help with
Yes,
adjusting those as part of the?
absolutely. And one nice thing about direct conversion is you can literally set it on one setting and take all of your images at that setting. And any high resolution imaging device does take more photons, more exposure, but this will capture at your normal level. Like let's say you're using a Dexus or a Schick and you're capturing a 0.12, for example. This will capture at that level what I call just high def. But if you turned it up to a 0.20, it would be super high def. And you could keep turning up exposure with no burnout. And that's the reason that once you reach the optimal energy level, you can just leave it at one setting, which, as you know, makes life much easier. And it means you're not getting graininess on posteriors and burnout on anteriors, for example. You have even exposure, top to bottom, left to right.
Well, great information. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely, Laskin.
so do you have a website that people can go to check out more information or to order the sensors?
Definitely. So direct to FTG's website is ftgimaging.com. Stands for Freedom Technologies Group, but it's ftgimaging.com. And that's where I would say to go to see everything on the website. We've got images. We've got a complete description of direct conversion. Nice little commercial there that we have professionally done too, where you meet the founders. I wanted to mention as well, Dr. Robert Sachs is our clinical advisor. He's one of the three founders. Konstantinos and I met early on, but then in 2018, Rob was brought in to raise capital and further advise on the clinical aspect. He was instrumental in the design of the holders, for example. So he's really been a great contributing factor as well.
Great. Well, and of course, check out Dental TI and Sodium Systems also.
Yes,
I've got
absolutely.
find out more about the sensor, go to ftgimaging.com. Thanks, David, so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dr. Laskin. I appreciate it.